It being 9 a.m., we'll call the meeting to order. Our pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And we have an agenda that was submitted to us. Any additions or changes to the agenda?
Yes, there's one additional action item requested. It should be in front of all of you.
Okay.
Requesting approval of vacation and sick leave carryover in excess of defined limits for non-represented positions until the personnel policy is reviewed and updated. There is currently an inequity between the non-represented positions and their represented counterparts. This affects the finance director, IT director, HR director, assistant county attorney, and nurses.
That'll be an action item number 6.
Correct.
Yep. Anything else? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded with the approval of the agenda with addition of action 6. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. Approve the previous minutes of December 19th.
One small correction on file number 2. File 2 in the minutes under it, we were talking about the purchase of vehicles. It just says purchase of 3 vehicles and purchase of 3 used vehicles.
Okay.
Just an addition.
Had the word used.
Yeah.
With that, adjustment, is there any others? Entertain a motion.
With that correction, addition, I move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Being none, all in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. At this point, we'll open up the public comment. Doesn't appear to be on the screen. The audience, any public comment? Comment. Okay. Being none, we go to the appointments, and this nice thing about it is recognizing our employees for lots of years of being with us. Carol has the certificates. Yeah, come up and. Yeah. But some people are here and some are not. Let's read them all off. So people. Okay. Need a signature. Okay, for 35 years, David Bauer. Here. He's been retired.
Yep.
Yeah. I thought. But he had 35 years with us. Barry Safkey, 35 years. Julie Brink, 30 years. On. Thank you. Holly Felton, 25 years. Glasses time. Christopher Tevison, 20 years. Julie Von Arx Abnett for 20 years. Anthony Doctor, 15 years. Ryan Bogaczynski, 15 years. What?
David. Oh, okay.
William Hargrove, 15 years. Aaron Ognick, 10 years. Kirby Fitzpatrick, 10 years. And Michelle Herman, 10 years. All these are still all public work. Again, let's give everybody a round of applause. Yep, come on up. Four of them. Come on up front here. We'll stand behind you or something, but there will be. Yeah, well, there. There we go. We're kind of standing between. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's get back. Put it all here today. Okay. And then next is on consent agenda, we had nothing there. So we're moving on to action items. Consider approving advertising request for proposal to fill the 2024 Wildcat Manager position as a recommendation of the Parks Committee as majority voted for advertising versus renegotiating. And by
Okay, sorry, I'm out of breath, just ran up and down the steps again. Yeah, after much discussion, the Parks Committee voted on how to fill the 2024 Wildcat Manager position, with the majority voting to request for an RFP. So wondering if the board would approve that, or if they have something different in mind, or
feeling of the board.
Why is last year's manager didn't want the position?
We didn't offer it to,
Did not offer.
not yet. That's what I was gonna make a motion about. We offered to. Remember? Because we talked in the minute, we discussed that we would, if she did a really good job, we'd offer her a 3 to 5 year time.
And so, but where does this come from? The Parks Committee as far as that's concerned?
I don't know. That is- Why they changed their minds, I don't know.
It was kind of left in the air and then Polly continued to inquire, so to clarify.
there were suggestions both ways at the Parks Committee meeting. So we did reach out and tried to search for recommendations from a couple of different avenues so we could move forward. It came down to, in the end, it was a vote for the Parks Committee, whether we do one or the other. And the majority of the votes came back to request for an RFP. Just to kind of start, the main reason was to start fresh. If there was any question about the hiring process, it would be good for everyone to start with a clean slate and move forward. Was the reasoning behind it for the majority of the people that voted for that option.
Quite a few recommendations for how they managed the park last year from people that, campers and whatnot. So I don't think she did a bad job. I'm just curious as to why.
You mean recommendation?
I mean, she did a good job. Oh, that they were happy with how it was. Yeah.
Compliments.
Complimentary
And she did not do a bad job. That's not what we're saying at all.
Guess the question is if there's some so-called tainted process. Do we want to continue to use a tainted process? We want to start.
Well, the process was okay that we did,
We're being investigated,
but that wasn't for the process, it's for the ethics. That's what my. So the process was. We did a process with Tessa's recommendations. She did the interview, her and Sam.
Yeah, I mean, so I think there was, different views. I would agree with what Polly said and you said as far as the, how they performed down there last year. I think that Fireside Management did a pretty good job. They completed most of the aspects of the contract, maybe not all of them, but the majority. Some of it is, the process. If you advertise again, it doesn't necessarily prohibit Fireside Management from going out there and applying again. And, they do have a year of experience. They definitely would have an opportunity to be in the running and get selected again for a longer term contract. So it doesn't take them out of the equation by advertising again. It just opens it up to other people as well.
Still kind of an insult
Yeah.
from the perspective of they've done a good job. They didn't get everything ready or completed, but they did most of it, and so now they can finish the plan. I mean,
I agree with you. They had a plan that they were gonna get so much done this year, and next year we're gonna get set up the computer system. I mean, you can't get it all done in 1 year. And I think they had an investment of a lawnmower and they bought a beat or a golf cart and they did a lot of stuff in the store. We want to turn around and kick them in the teeth, or do we want to give them a chance? If they turn us down, we can open it back up.
And again, it wasn't meant to kick anyone in the teeth.
Well, it sure
because
looks like it. I mean, we had a
Unfortunate.
4-1 vote to hire her, and now all of a sudden we're back to a 4-2 vote not to hire her. I'd like to know what swapped that deal. This investigation should have nothing to do with this. We're hiring a Wildcat manager.
Correct. When the vote went out with the 2 options to the Parks Committee, that was the majority vote that came back.
So what was the majority opinion on the Parks Committee for that vote to start to do all the RFP again?
Well,
Instead of a continued with the same managers for 23 with the longer term contract.
There was concerns about this process being investigated that was brought up by Rick's friend that we need to. If we did it wrong 6 months after she was hired. So now if it's tainted, if there's problems with the process, let's correct it.
Well, the investigation, that's a different subject.
That's part of it.
No. We have minutes here of us talking about this back in February. It was mentioned, applications being sought for the 23 for the campground for 23, contract bond insurance options are looked into. The first year management agreement will be a 1-year contract with hopes for extending the future contract to be possibly 3 to 5 year commitment. And then October 24th, there was another thing in the minutes where there was a general consensus of the commissioners to continue with the park manager contract to see if the current manager was interested and no longer in the contract. Then I see in the Caledonia Argus online, it's stated right in here in the article, Amber Miller has been offered the position of Wildcat manager and will be offered a 3 to 5 year contract. It's just in the paper.
Very unfortunate that there's,
No, Polly, I'm not putting you on the
Yeah,
spot on
and
this.
I-
I'm just saying. It was always my impression and in the discussions with meetings, and correct me if I'm wrong. That if first, we were gonna do a 1 year to see how it worked, and if if it worked well, there was no major issues, that we would just go ahead and pursue a longer term contract with that winner of that RFP. And now we're starting all over. So am I wrong in my thoughts of what we were having discussions on?
Well, I mean, it's just that with all the things being brought up that for some reason took 6 months to be brought to our attention, we got a tainted process. We want to continue with tainted processes
Well,
or not.
is there a guarantee that this time around it's gonna be it isn't gonna be a tainted process? Is there a guarantee to that?
Never is. But if you wish to use a tainted process, then we go with what you're.
Wait a minute, nobody wants to use what a so-called tainted, you're the one that's characterizing that, so.
Well, I mean, that was brought up, right, when she made her complaint?
Yep.
The process was wrong.
No. There was ethics complaints brought up by her on what was going on in the process. That's what's being investigated. And technically, we are not supposed to be discussing the investigation.
True.
And here we are discussing. We're talking about moving forward with the Camp Wildcat manager here.
I got a phone call on it from Dick Walters, who is on the committee, I'm assuming.
Mhm.
And he also sent me an email on it, supporting us moving forward with the current person that's in there. I can only assume that he voted that way. I forwarded that email individually to the other commissioners.
All those individuals, so nobody knew where.
I also had reached out in Greg had found it there too, and you guys, Eric, with the stuff that was in the minutes and the newspaper too, which was a little concerning to me. And I had requested to see all of the minutes from the Parks Committee, but I understand the most current ones aren't available.
They haven't been approved.
Right.
But mhm.
Yeah.
The same feelings that, the investigation shouldn't be part of it. And it is still ongoing. So there hasn't been a conclusion made on if there's a violation of ethics or any of the process. That's part of it being an investigation from a complaint that's made. It should have no bearing on that whatsoever. We should be moving forward. It takes a lot of time. It costs a lot of money. Once again, when I started on the board here in January, I think the term was used, we're under the gun because they wanted to get stuff going by April. Well, January's knocking on our doorstep, so we're in the same situation we were last year. I also know people that camp down there. I know some groups that utilize it for their social activities, and every one of them thought it was really well run. Told me that. I, as a commissioner, never heard one complaint about anyone's camping experience down there, and they thought that it was moving in the right direction.
And
And
oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, one of the comments that I will say with the vote is that the Parks Committee members do not know exactly what's all being investigated or what the status is and what's being found, so.
They don't need to
At
be.
this point, it's a
Yeah,
moot-
yeah,
moot
so,
point,
so,
correct.
you know, we'll put that caveat in there with the 4-2 vote is that there is unknowns that the Parks Committee members maybe have that the commission maybe don't have. So that definitely could have swayed the outcome one way or another.
Was there any discussion in the Parks Committee about what transpired last year with the performance or getting things done? Is there something that's concerning that they felt they needed to start over, or is there? It's just all because of the.
There was enough concern that Parks Committee recommended reaching out to Bill Sears to ask him for input or for feedback to say, you know, what is his recommendation with what he's seeing. There was no information provided. He didn't want to get involved with.
I'm
Well,
talking
hiring
about
process.
the performance of the Amber Miller and Steve Getzinger as park manager for 23. As far as. I don't know,
Yeah,
what's the money situation? Was the money, did the Did we have a profitable year or not? I shouldn't say profitable, but a good year as far as the money situation? Did we have issues with the campground or, you know, was there any tensions with the people that were camping with the managers or?
As you can fill in, I can tell you what I'm aware of. I believe that the park made a profit of roughly $10,000 last year, which is a little bit less than previous years. But that's, some of that is set based on the park fees. Wasn't, you know, during COVID years, there was more visitors at the parks. So the number was down a little bit, but not drastically. The performance as far as people calling compliance issues of the operation of the park, really didn't hear anything that way. It was pretty quiet, which is a good thing. Very little feedback one way or another, being that it's a brand new park manager. You expect to have hiccups along the way, and it really was pretty minimal for that. As the contract side of things, the one thing within that I believe wasn't completed was setting up the online reservation system that was in the agreement to get that set up. That was not done at all. We found out in October that wasn't started. Would have been nice to have notification. Hey, we don't have time to manage getting this set up during the camping season, so we're not working on this. And we believe this should maybe be the county's place to set that up instead of the park manager, and have the county own the online reservation software and the park manager managing it. That wasn't talked about, it wasn't brought up in the seasons. That was the one aspect of the contract I believe wasn't done. I believe the majority of the other stuff, or maybe even all the other stuff, was completed. So, you know, for the most part, yeah, and I do think that they did a good job on the overall operation of the park.
And if I could,
I only had 3 comments from seasonals that were negative, and I had 2 that were positive. So those are people I know that are seasonal. I don't know who was down in the other.
and if I could add to what Brian just said too, actually, when I pulled the financials and I did review them, the county portion, there was an increase from last year. Of about, and this is overall because there were the concessions and different things involved where it wasn't the prior years. So the county portion increased from my numbers about $7,000 from the prior year. So again, no one is saying that the previous manager did a bad job. That's not what we were implying at all, or that I should speak for the Parks Committee. It was just starting a new, fresh process is the reason, to be fair to everyone.
You said nobody's complaining about the previous manager. Technically, they're the current manager. Right?
Perhaps could
Just
be, if
past
that's what
summers.
you, yeah,
the
past
contract
summers.
just expired. Yes.
Thank you for clarifying.
Well, I'm just.
No, that's good.
Well,
Jake.
well, we
Oh.
had one for 60 years and we never had that. Well, Sam, or somehow somebody brought in Sam and Sam said, we gotta do this every year. Well, that ain't true because our investigator, I guess they call.
No, we can't be
Right,
talking
right,
about
right.
anything about this investigation.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we offer the job to Amber Miller and her side by side Steve Getzinger, Fireside Align, or Fireside Management. Offer it to them, and if they refuse it, then we can open it back up for RFPs.
Motion. For a second. It's kind of going away from the, now it's following the same lines as the agenda item, so. So motion, that's motion made, is there a second?
Well, just for clarification, I'll second it, by the way.
Okay.
It goes along the same line as the action item here. It's here. It says,
Second, number 1.
it says we're considering another RFP. So how is Greg's motion kind of the same as?
You talking good number 1? Number 1 consideration. He added at the end, they'll offer a RFP if they don't take it. So I understood his motion. Is that correct, Greg?
Yeah, if she turns this down, then we can open it up for RFPs.
Right, but the request from the Parks Committee was to go directly to an RFP without offering anything to anybody. correct?
Correct. Start from scratch.
That's the suggestion, because it's a committee.
Well, I feel that we should offer it to Amber and Steve Getzinger, Amber Miller, and Steve Getzinger, Fireside Management. Because we have it in the minutes. It's in the paper. And we want to have a fair and clean process. I think we have to do it this way.
Covered.
As far as the management of the park, I have no complaints that I receive with regard to their management abilities. Question I'll have is, what about the online reservation business? The original option was that they would take care of that. They're saying the county should take care of it. What, are we going back?
Carol can answer that, but
We've actually committee approved using Firefly online reservation system, and that is being set up.
Okay.
And basically it's probably a suggestion when looking at the future contract is to actually have the person or whoever is managing it, even though it's in the county's name, that they be managers of it, so that they are aware of what's going on with it. It's just like, a computer system that I have in my office that somebody else can access and manage it. We want it set up that way, and that is a capability with the software that we're looking at.
So it is a collaboration then, as far as
Yeah.
Fireside and the county putting this together, so we have the online reservation system
soon.
in place.
Right.
I don't.
Further discussion, question?
Has there been any correspondence with them since they closed up the park? I mean, did they answer to the park committee, I'm assuming?
They did, they joined us at a meeting
Joined us.
in
Say that.
October.
And was there any
Shared-
discussion about the extension of the contract and some of the verbiage that was in our minutes and long plan, short plan, nothing?
I think just a little bit, they mentioned that they would like, that if they did come back, which they didn't know if they wanted to manage the park or not in next year, so they were a little bit non-committal at that point. They mentioned that they would like to see some change in the contract. Didn't talk about what those changes were. That was about it. It was pretty brief. There wasn't any negotiations back and forth detail about what changes, how things would work out. It's more the committee and the board would make a decision and we'd get back to them at some point.
So there was never any offer.
Oh, we kind of wanted to wait to see how the figures come out.
We didn't have the financial stuff yet at that point, so.
Okay. So the motion is to offer to them with a backup of having the RFP. If they decline. Everybody understand the motion? Roll call.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Just so I understand, the yes means that we do offer.
Correct.
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Moving on to number 2, consider
Thank you.
approval of the 2023 budget amendment to accurately reflect various revenues and expenditures and fund balances. Usage of the Recorder's Technology Fund and Compliance Fund and amendments to the road and bridge project. All those words, Carol?
Yeah, and like I said, at the finance committee meeting, these are basically for the compliance fund. And actually, I don't even know if there was any for that, but the recorder's equipment fund, it's money that's collected through the recorder's office that is specifically designated by statute for use of these certain things. So in making these amendments, it doesn't change our bottom line budget. for that. And Sheila discussed actually we adjust the revenues and the expenditures to account for that money being utilized by those designated funds. And Sheila did indicate that the road and bridge amendments are basically just moving it between places. There's no change to the bottom line budget either on those, but when it comes time to explain variances to our auditors, it's better to have them closer than farther away. So,
Built the bookkeeping type of thing, basically.
mhm.
Feeling on board.
Based on what Carol told us at the finance meeting and whatnot, and what we understood, I'll make a motion to approve the budget amendments in order to accurately reflect the various revenues and expenditures, fund balance of both recorders fund and the road and bridge.
There a second,
Second then.
further discussion. Being none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay, carried. Number 3 is Carol, consider designation of county revenue, road, bridge, public health, and human services as the 2024 major funds and debt service and capital projects as minor funds.
It's a housekeeping thing that we do every year. We have to designate which funds we're going to be using for major purposes, which is, of course, our general revenue, road and bridge, public health and human services. We have our debt service fund, but based on the amount that it is, it's considered minor. We are keeping the capital projects fund open as we're looking at different ways of funding our vehicles if we're moving away from the leasing. So I want to have that available. And I guess I didn't put down, we do have Fund 12 established for the opioid settlement money because we were required by the agreement that we signed to have it in a separate fund. But when it comes to reporting, it actually gets combined with public health and human services. So that's why I guess I didn't have it on the list, but just so that you were aware that.
It's part of health and human services, but it's got its own separate designation.
Right. And we were required to do that based on the agreement we signed to receive the money.
This is a typical annual.
Yep, you do it every December.
bookkeeping.
Mhm.
So I'll make a motion.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion. Being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, carry. Number 4, consider adopting the 2024 tax levy resolution 23-49.
So there was, much discussion last week regarding our 2024 budget, looking at our 2022 additions to fund balance and the budget amendments we did for 2023, which look like we're going to be adding fund balance again. So it was the option of, possibly lowering the levy to be covered by the fund balance that we increased by. So the sheet, we're now on the green panel. So if you look at the 4% levy increase, the net, our budget deficit would be 445,837, which we had an increase of $800,000 in our 2022 fund balance. Our general fund for 2023 with the budget amendments that we did is at 351 budget surplus. So if the board feels that they would cover that budget deficit, lowering the levy to 4%, I don't believe there's a problem with it. The levy amount for that would be the gross levy 15,119,984, less the CPA for the net levy of 13,657,159. If you wanted to keep it at the 7%, that is the amount on the middle panel, the bottom one. Where the levy, net levy would be 14,051,698.
So. Just so I'm clear, understand this. 7% levy would give us a total levy of 15,207,000. Correct? I'm looking down here at,
Oh, okay, no, yeah,
no,
it'd be the bottom one. This is the gross levy increase,
right,
and
right.
then
So it'd be the
this is actually with
13,744.
the 7% increase, net levy increase, nets the 14,051. The bottom one
Oh.
on the middle panel.
I get you. I'm sorry. I'm looking at 23. Sorry. 14,102. Is a 7%.
No, in the middle one, what we approved for
Preliminary.
the preliminary levy is this one in the middle.
And what I'm saying, the green one is gonna be the final.
Right, so if we're going with the 4%, it would be this amount. Look where it says net 4%. So the middle column, the 13,657. The net levy that we would receive from the taxpayers.
That's 6.385 levy.
Well, it's 6.385 based on the gross levy before CPA is reduced. I
Yeah, see the CPA.
You know, we
does-
typically don't have that big of a difference in our CPA, but we got that big increase.
Yeah.
So we would kind of do that calculation previously. So really, I should just take those off. We should just be calculating on the net levy increase, which is how it calculates over here.
Right.
Okay.
On the green
So
column.
what's that number?
The 4%. See on the right-hand column, it's 4%.
Total levy be
With the 445,837,000 budget deficit, which could be covered by fund balance. So our net levy to the taxpayers is 13,657,159. If you were to do the 4%.
So 800,000 deficit or
Surplus.
It's on here, surplus. We added to our fund balance down on the bottom. It shows that the general fund increased their fund balance by 412,813. Road and Bridge, there was a reduction in their fund balance, but that had to do basically with the building fund, which actually 230,000 is a lot less than what we actually took out of there. So in effect, they increased their fund balance, but we used a portion of it for the building. It was transferred into the capital projects fund. Human Services increased their fund balance by $535,000. So that's,
In
you know,
22.
Hmm?
In 20.
in 22, at the end of 2022.
but in 23, we had a
So in
surplus of 350 something.
in the general fund, Road and Bridge has a small fund balance use, and so does Human Services, Public Health and Human Services. Which actually, if you go to this other colored sheet on the back page,
Total government.
okay, there's the yellow highlighted, which is actually the 2024 without the property tax levy. But the 2023 budget shows that our net budget surplus is $298,000.
I see that.
Okay.
In 22, it was 582.
Yeah, that on the cash basis,
Mhm.
but when it was actually audited.
Oh,
based on 22 and 23. We went to a 4%, then the 445, 837. Reduction in fund balance. But really only less than half of what we had. Wouldn't hurt the county and their fund balance. Undesignated fund balances would still be healthy.
Well, we have an available fund balance of 1.69 million, right?
You wanna make more cuts, we could drop the chloride. That might get us down a little farther.
I think a 4% increase is reasonable. I think it's sustainable, and I think we've got some things coming up in 24 that are gonna possibly be a problem, that we're gonna have to dip into the fund balance again. So I'm not unhappy with dropping to 4% from the 7.
A good way to go and still maintain availability of funds in the future if we need.
So if we go with a 4%. How much should we dip into that 1.6 million?
The 445,000.
Okay,
Some of that would, is that all general fund? cover?
Well,
Some
the
of that would be-
1.6 million is all general fund,
right.
so
Then you
Road and
got
Bridge
the
was-
road and bridge is 3 million
3 million.
and human services is 394.
Mhm.
I don't think we do.
I mean, we got a lot of. And this
I think
is,
we do.
this is after the 50% threshold that we like this, we have to
Right.
stay at.
We're still maintaining that 50% to
Right.
keep our cash
This is
flow.
over and above the 50% down here in available fund balance.
Right.
So we could go to a 3%.
Yes, we could. Just because of what, everybody wants to do that.
Well, I mean, we can make a few more cuts, I mean, that wouldn't hurt nobody. We can give up putting on chloride, that wouldn't bother nobody.
Oh, yes, it would. I give my butt soon.
Well, okay, the chloride. Didn't we cut that, or am I wrong? We're still gonna do it for the townships, correct?
Currently in the budget, we're still doing it for county road, some of the county roads and, or the county roads and townships.
Oh,
The amount is reduced from where it was 3 years ago,
okay,
but it's not totally limited.
We're still doing the intersection. To keep the dust down on the intersection so that we don't have visibility issues.
We still have the budget in front of the full coverage. The only portion of that cost, I believe, is roughly half of
yeah, because the townships pay for all the chloride that they use.
Everybody in county roads gets it for nothing.
Their tax. I don't have a problem going down to 4%. I think we need to have a reasonable increase. Of 4% just to. We have things coming up that could cause us a problem in the future as far as negotiations and things that have to be done, computers, what have you. And I know we've got money left over in the ARPA funds.
I think we need to maintain the reserve for said. Two things happening, the negotiations are coming up. Those are the big items this coming year.
Let's do 3.5. I'll make a motion, 3.5.
Oh,
What?
okay.
She
Well, now I
doesn't
have to
like
do a lot of
halves.
recalculations.
She doesn't like halves. I don't
Are
blame,
you sure?
I don't blame you.
Sorry, you should have told me. I didn't know.
Okay.
you don't get a second, it doesn't matter.
Well,
No,
Yes, 3.5 is what you said over there?
Yeah,
Of a levy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion?
was that big an issue, Carol, to go 3.5?
Well.
I'm asking the question.
no, I just have to adjust the numbers, but I'm not gonna be able to give you those final numbers
For a while.
for a little bit. I don't know what kind of other business you have to do, but hopefully before the
We
end of the
don't need
meeting.
Numbers right now, we're just cutting it to 3.5, we know about it.
Okay,
There's no area of number.
And that 0.5% is $71,000 roughly, so the 445. Go to 516
mhm,
roughly. So I kind of know what they'll be.
mhm, okay.
Thanks.
Is motion made seconded, do a roll call, please?
District 1,
No.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes. 3.5.
Thank you, Carol.
Mhm.
And then the next
Let
one.
me go back here and figure.
Consider adopting. You're on this next one too, Carol. The operating budget is resolution 23-50.
Well, what you're going to do is adopt the budget as reflected. The expenditure budget as reflected in this bottom line, and then I'll have to recalculate
Yeah.
the revenue.
Yep.
Budget,
Because we drew a curve.
because yeah, through a curve.
Okay,
We don't have to.
Brian, don't leave just yet. I have a question for you.
okay,
I'll make that motion to approve the operating budget resolution 23.
motion is made. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Carried. Okay. Yep. Now we move on to the. Here,
Whining.
I read it. As was read earlier, a request for approval of vacation sick leave carryover in excess of defined limits for non-represented positions until personnel policy is reviewed and updated. Opinions on to explain why. Yes,
Well, and I think it should be included in the, not until it's reviewed, it should be included in the policy. This just puts the non-represented folks at par with the, NAEP or represented counterparts for, if they, for the, groups that were identified. It puts their carry forward limit from 192 up to 2 years worth, which is, I believe, also in the AFSMI unit as well. And this just treats each of the employees in parity.
That's fair.
It's too good. Yeah, it's fair. It doesn't, the only time it would have a cost implication is should a person have that much carryover at the time they leave the county and they leave in, that would be part of their cash out, should they not use their vacation prior to that. And it's a limited number of people. It's not that many, individuals. I'm sorry, Commissioner Johnson?
So why hasn't this been addressed sooner? It says here to be reviewed and updated and put in the was it the employee policy or employer policy or whatever? Handbook?
I'm not sure what your question as to why it would be
Why are
sooner.
we just at last minute approving this now?
I didn't put it on at the last minute. It
I
was
did.
put on by, Carol.
Yeah,
It could be done now. It could be done. There are going to be a lot of different amendments to the proposed policy based on whether they're statutory or parity, but this is one thing, if we do it now, that would just be included rather than being discussed later. I don't think it has. And correct me if I'm not if I'm mistaken, Carol, I don't think it has any financial implications for next year at all that would impact your budget. But it does allow the staff that are impacted to be able to carry those amounts over rather than potentially lose those hours. And I don't even believe there's that many people bumping up next for that amount, if maybe one or two. So it's minimal. But
It
it's
saves
important to
some as
those-
far as the use it or lose it.
Yeah, but it's important to those people that are there. And
So is this something we've done every year, or is this something we're gonna make it?
no,
permanent
this
now?
would make it permanent that they're treated with the same limitation on their carryover instead of having a reduced limitation as others have had.
So-
Excuse me, instead of having a reduced limitation, 192 versus 2 years. And keep in mind, different employees, depending upon how long they are here, they accrue at different rates. So it's not like everybody's accruing at the top rate. It's just very different amounts.
But this is the first time it's been brought up to be addressed.
That's my understanding. We haven't, it's been a discussion that when we do the policies, that we do them in a manner that treats our employees similarly to their represented counterparts.
So it's an equity thing. For these treated the same as other employees.
And I encourage people to take their vacation. You know, but it's up to them whether they feel they can take it at any particular time or not. And so the ones who believe that have not taken that, they will be treated the same as. It's a very straightforward request. It doesn't have any immediate financial tails, and like I said, the financial tails, if any, may be absolutely minimal. And I don't want to misstate that, because finance is right here.
I think it was discussed last
Yeah, we talked
December
about it at a
also.
personnel meeting a long time,
Mhm.
just never got, everything else kind of got boggled up.
And a lot got put on plates last year.
Mhm.
I'll move to approve.
Yeah, I think it's no more fair.
That's fair.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried.
One question as far as when you're sitting up here. Like the policy that the state sends down with regard to, what is it, the vacation?
Sick and safe time, we had no policy.
No, so we have to follow what's on the statute, but we will make sure our policies and our contracts are in alignment with the statutes. I've had conversation with one business manager who believes we don't have to make any memorandum of agreement because the statute controls over what we would have in policy, but
We don't need to have a separate policy of the state.
I'm looking at that, Commissioner.
I've noticed other cities and counties that have been adopting resolution. We need to do something that along the same lines, I would think.
Makes sense.
Well, I have to look at the statute to make sure that that's what we really need to do. Otherwise, there are a lot of things in our contracts and in our policy that we just replicate what's already in the statute. If we don't, if there's an election we need to make there on that, or to change our contracts to make sure they're in alignment, we will do that. Like I said, I had a conversation with one business manager who, when I was proposing, they were looking at this and not sure they even needed a change in it. So that's on my plate this week.
So if we did make a policy change, if statute says that we have to have our own policy. And we put that into place, does that then require a memorandum of understanding between
It
us
would
and the?
require a
because
memorandum of agreement for that particular
Even though-
kind of change.
Even though they don't actually have anything to say about it because it's a state statute. They
If
can't
in
go-
fact there has to be, we have to look to see if the benefits that the state is actually putting in place exceed what we have in our current practice. And that's what we have to do with all the statutes that impact that. Are,
But you're looking at the
Important.
statute to see what we have to do and then
I have
score that away.
read, a couple of weeks ago, I was looking at that and started trying to have conversations with some of our business.
I would assume the statute is pretty straightforward. If we have.
But there's implications of whether what we provide already.
So we'll be looking at that.
We gotta
first.
figure all that out.
And so the next board meeting in the first part of the year.
Okay.
I'll have something to you on that.
That was my,
Were you able to reach out to the highway maintenance candidate? For the lesser step?
We
Yeah.
did. Highway engineer did.
The response that he is not interested push through or. Yeah, through. That, so now we're looking. For additional individuals for it on the.
Who are the union 49er union stewards for the crew?
At Burns and Jordan.
So we're looking to set interviews. We should have those set sometime tomorrow or the next day.
There's 3 now on the list.
We're considering 3.
So it's Pat Burns and Jordan Gayton.
They're the 2 unions.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay, thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. And that,
No, that was it.
Okay.
I was just wondering what the status was on that.
that takes care of the action items. Moving on to, okay, Carol.
I'll give you the numbers. So 3.5% or net levy increase will have a budget deficit of $510,362. So the net levy will be $13,592,634. And I'll print new ones of these so you can see them. So then in terms of the budget, you'll be approving a revenue budget of $32,374,730. Expenditure budget of $32,885,092. And then net of that is the $510,362.
Yes, if you can email that out.
Yeah, I'll get-
Here,
I'll get new ones that look better than that.
okay. Scribble. All right,
Thank you for your
Thank
work.
you.
Thank you.
thank you, Carol.
thank you, Carol. And now we move on to updates, board members, Greg.
I got nothing. I was been eating candy and cakes and ice cream. And I got nothing.
Okay,
Had no zoning, nothing.
Jones,
Well, I have nothing that we didn't discuss here today. So
Mr. Burns.
All right, the cars have been delivered. They're out at the county shop. As I understand it, the dealers, when we bought them, do all the paperwork and they're gonna come to the courthouse and we've got the temporary licenses on them. County shop put the Houston County verbiage on both sides. So they're ready to drive, and then we have to have the hard licenses by January 11th, I think it is. But the cars are here. Nice cars.
They down at the highway
We're
department.
down at the highway department. I drove all of them.
Inside.
I delivered all of them at the highway department. The Journey. It's really nice inside. I mean, it's all leather. It's fully dressed out. It's a kind of a funny cleaning smell, so I put a bunch of baking soda in it and stuff to try and absorb this metal and make it better. But the two, and it's a 6-cylinder, they're all all-wheel drive and very nice vehicles. I did attend last Thursday a City of Caledonia Special Council meeting with regard to the levy that they had on the street, which affects us only a little bit because we had a little bit of a levy fee for when they cut into the street right out by the old jail,
Assessment.
an assessment, a special assessment.
We have to pay.
Did we ask why we were assessed and the US Postal Service wasn't? Because we're a government agency also.
So we have to pay a fee for cutting into our parking lot?
Into our street, into the circle street that goes.
That's not a street, city street, is it?
No,
That's a parking lot.
Which parking lot?
No.
it's not a parking lot. It's the drive that's on the north side of the old jail. You take a left and go
Oh,
past. it.
I'm thinking of the one in the parking lot where we
No,
cut in.
it doesn't go there.
Okay, sorry.
That's different. But it was initially, it was a little over $3,000. On the first meeting with the people, the city council dropped the 5.5% interest rate down to 1% and dropped the 25% assessment down to 20%. Now, on this last meeting, they left the interest at 1%, but they dropped the assessment down to 10%. So
So is their 8.9 levy increase gonna cover all that?
their levy is set, so that's got a fund balance is what they're dealing with. But you know what, it's gonna mean a little bit of a cut to the $3,000 or $3,400 originally that we were gonna have. It'll drop us quite a lot.
There was a couple of businesses that were gonna get an absorbent fee on it.
Yeah. But there was a lot of people that were upset with how much it was costing. And
Can I ask one question?
sure,
Why wouldn't they delegate that out to the whole city instead of just those businesses? The whole city usually
75% of it goes against the whole city.
does it.
And
75%?
25%, but initially 25% was gonna go against the adjoining business. Now 10% goes to the adjoining businesses and the other 90% against the whole city.
Oh.
Now, one of the arguments that some of the people had, well, just raise taxes. We know what that means, but you know, that was their argument that the whole city.
Well, they ended up at 10%. That wasn't all bad then, was it, from 25?
So, I mean, I'm assuming they're happy with that, but maybe not. So we'll wait and see. I know they have an attorney and whatnot, so I don't know if they're actually going to carry through with it or not. That still remains to be seen. But I just wanted to report what happened at the city council. That's all I had.
So was there any question to the cars? Was there any warranty?
You get also, the cars that we got from Sleepy Hollow, and I should ask this, we get 2 oil changes and tire rotation. We do not get that from Holt. Yeah, they have
And plus there's a 30-day warranty,
30-day one.
30-day, 3,000 miles.
There was no mile limitation, just
So supply stayed the same way.
30 days. Technically, they said it's be 50-50. We pay half, they pay half. Dean said, well, I'll take care of it. So,
As we know, they don't put a lot of miles on it. 30 days, hopefully they'll figure out the same problems.
so then the old carts that we have, I don't know who puts those on the min bid.
So we got some to sell now.
We got those 3 old ones that we're replacing with high mileage. One of them's wired together. Muffler fell off and they wired it back up, so I don't know if it's John that puts it on.
Yeah, I just spoke with Brian and I'll be bringing those new cars from highway over to us and we'll take the old ones and bring them over to him. He'll take our decals off and get them set up for the min bid auction.
Which Brian?
Brian Pottegill.
Okay,
So I just spoke to him. And so we'll get that hopefully squared away yet today.
We're sitting outside.
I'll take. Nice car. Pretty red, pretty navy blue, standard gray Dodge.
Well, if we put on 15,000. There.
Okay, anything else?
When the leases are done.
Well,
cars
no,
just
Are you done?
I'm done.
Oh, I'm
done.
sorry, Well, okay, there,
I don't really have anything either. I just had a call on Friday night from a guy who was really upset about the hire or non-hire of the highway. He gave me an earful and I really couldn't argue anything on it, so. He just wanted to point out that, and I don't like to rehash roads, I don't. He just wanted to point out to me that why would you turn down somebody with 20 years of experience that operates very expensive equipment? You know, why would you turn them down? And he had a point, so I couldn't argue. So that's all I had.
okay,
On my response, or,
Nope,
okay,
finance meeting,
unless you want to offer it, no one stop it.
should have won it.
this morning, we had finance, it was not too much going on. County Road 13 repaving bid be going on after the first year. Also waiting on some funding that comes down from the state. Usually here, but now it's running a little late apparently. Public Health talked about the water, the well water thing is ongoing, wait to see what the state does. And Carol pretty much handled things, during our meeting as to our discussion, so. That's about all I had for now, so. Anything else? We move on to public comment, anybody spur to public comment? Yes.
Just wanted to clarify, since the artist mentioned my minutes from December 12th. In the board reports from Commissioner Meyer said, Wildcat meeting, they're moving on, set up for next year. Gonna offer Amber a 3 to 5 year contract. She had the first option. We told her last year if she did a good job, we would do that, and then she has 2 weeks to respond. So that's what I.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the cause? Entertain a motion to adjourn. A second,
Second.
no discussion, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.